"Excuse me, sir. I'm here for the job interview." Daniel Whitmore, the CEO, looked up, stunned. He blinked as if trying to make sense of what he was seeing. A 4-year-old child. Alone. In his office. "You're here for what?" he asked, rising slowly. She didn't back away. Her voice was soft, but clear. "My mommy was supposed to come. But, she's in the hospital. She told me not to miss the chance." He stared at her, speechless. The clipboard she handed him wasn't a resume, it was a crayon-colored page titled, "My mommy needs this job." Sometimes, it's not credentials that walk through the door. It's courage. And that's when everything changed. What happened next shocked the entire building, and it just might leave you in tears. Stay with us for the full story, and if you believe real stories still matter, subscribe to Behind the Billions for more like this. "Sir. I'm here for the interview." The gentle hum of a photocopier filled the glass-paneled office as CEO Daniel Whitmore typed away at his computer, the sharp tap of keys echoing off the high walls. It was just another Tuesday morning. Nothing unusual, nothing out of place, until it happened. A small voice floated across the floor like a soft breeze, almost too quiet to be noticed. "Excuse me, sir." Daniel paused mid-keystroke, his brow furrowed. That voice, too light, too delicate to belong to anyone on the staff. He looked up. At first, he thought his eyes were deceiving him. Standing in the doorway to his office was a tiny figure. A little girl, no older than 4, wearing a bright red dress under a cream-colored cardigan. Her blonde pigtails were tied neatly with small blue hairbands. She gripped a brown clipboard tightly against her chest, as if it were her armor in a world far too big. She looked up at him with big, earnest eyes and said it again, louder this time. "I'm here for the job interview. You're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. You've interviewed Harvard grads, former Olympians, Wall Street elites, but never a child. Not like this." Daniel blinked. Behind the girl, his secretary Carla stepped into view, clearly having followed the little one in. Her mouth dropped open, her voice high and sharp with disbelief. What the? Is this a prank?" "Sir, I don't." But Daniel raised a hand. "It's all right, Carla." He stood slowly, taking a few careful steps toward the girl. His polished Oxfords made soft sounds on the tile floor, but to him, the moment felt thunderous, like something important was happening. Kneeling down so their eyes were level, he gently asked, "Sweetheart, where's your mommy?" The little girl hesitated. Her small fingers fidgeted on the edges of the clipboard. "She couldn't come," she whispered. "She's at the hospital." Daniel's heart tightened. "But," she continued, with the kind of bravery that should never have to exist in someone so small, "she told me not to let anything stop me. She said this job was important. So I came. For her." Time slowed. The buzzing phones, the tapping keyboards, the meetings scheduled on a whiteboard, all of it faded into silence. In that moment, the only thing that mattered was the little girl in front of him, standing tall with trembling legs and steel in her eyes. "What's your name?" Daniel asked, his voice barely steady. "Ava," she said proudly. He offered the softest smile. "Ava, you're incredibly brave. You, the viewer, watching this, what would you have done? Would you have turned her away? Called security? Or knelt, like Daniel did, realizing that sometimes, heroes walk in holding clipboards instead of resumes?" Behind her, Carla was still frozen in the doorway, eyes wide with disbelief. Daniel looked into Ava's determined gaze and knew one thing for sure, this was no ordinary interview. It was a test of humanity. And he intended to pass it. The resume written in crayon. Daniel carefully reached for the clipboard Ava held with such purpose, as if it were the key to her entire future. She looked up at him, unsure, her small fingers gripping the edges a little tighter, like handing it over might mean letting go of her last chance. "It's okay," he said softly. "Can I see it?" Ava nodded and slowly released her hold. Daniel turned the clipboard around and, when he saw what was on the page, his breath caught in his throat. It was a resume. Not typed. Not formatted. Written in crayon. Red, blue, green, the page was filled with the clumsy but determined handwriting of a child doing her absolute best. Across the top, it read: Ava Lane, applicant. Experience: helping mommy. Cleaning up toys. Folding clothes. Making sandwiches. Hugging people when they're sad. Skills: sharing. Saying please and thank you. Listening. Being brave. Loving mommy. Daniel's throat tightened as he read line after line. You couldn't fake this. You couldn't write it as a joke. This was real. Sir. Carla finally spoke, stepping into the office, still stunned. I checked. There's a Rebecca Lane scheduled to interview today. Secretary position. 10:30 slot. That's her mother. Daniel looked down at Ava again. She had climbed into the chair across from his desk, her little legs not even close to touching the floor. But she sat upright, serious, like a candidate ready to be evaluated. And your mommy, she told you to come here? He asked. Ava nodded. Last night, she said, Ava, this job could change everything. If something happens, don't let the chance go. Carla's voice cracked. Daniel, she came here alone. You look around at a world that feels too busy, too cold, and then a little girl shows up with nothing but hope, a crayon resume, and a promise to her mother. And suddenly, your walls start crumbling. Daniel crouched beside her once more. Do you know what a resume is, Ava? It's when you tell people what you're good at, she replied confidently. So they pick you. He smiled, sad and proud all at once. Well. I've read a lot of resumes in my life. But this one, he glanced at Carla, who nodded silently, fighting back emotion. This one might be the most important I've ever seen. Ava leaned forward, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. My mommy says we're gonna have a real home if she gets this job. With a door that locks. And curtains. And pancakes on Sundays. Daniel stood, heart pounding. Carla, he said firmly. Find out what happened to Rebecca Lane. Now. And get Ava some water, please. As Carla rushed off, Daniel turned back to the little girl who had just rewritten the meaning of qualified. He didn't know yet how, but deep inside, something told him. This little girl wasn't just applying for a job. She was fighting for a life. Carla returned minutes later, her heels clicking across the polished floor faster than usual. She didn't wait to be asked. Sir. I called the hospital. Rebecca Lane collapsed this morning on the subway platform, she had a seizure. Paramedics rushed her to County General. She's in the ICU. Critical condition. Daniel's heart dropped. He looked at Ava, still swinging her tiny legs on the oversized chair, completely unaware of the storm outside her bubble. Is there anyone with her? He asked quietly. Carla shook her head. No emergency contacts. No family listed. Just Ava. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing for the first time that day. You're telling me her mother, who was coming here to interview for a job, collapsed and sent her child alone to find this building, walk inside, and sit across from the CEO? Carla nodded slowly. Yes, sir. Daniel turned to look at the little girl again. She was examining a decorative globe on the edge of his desk, tracing continents with her finger. There was no panic in her, no tears, just quiet focus. You didn't cry, Ava, he said, walking over and crouching beside her again. Not even once. She shrugged, her voice small but steady. Mommy told me to be brave. That brave girls get things done. Daniel swallowed hard. This wasn't something a 4-year-old should be doing. She shouldn't be navigating elevators or crossing streets. She should be in preschool, coloring clouds and running barefoot in grass, not clutching a clipboard, applying for a job her unconscious mother was meant to attend. He turned to Carla again. Call my driver. Have him go to County General. Flowers. A card. Everything. I want to make sure Rebecca Lane isn't alone when she wakes up. Then he added, have legal start paperwork. A temp placement. Whatever we need to do to secure her employment. Carla looked stunned. You're hiring her? Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. She was willing to crawl through the world just to give her daughter a better shot. That kind of grit. That's what this company needs. He looked back at Ava and lowered his voice. Does this mean I didn't get the job? She asked. That question shattered what was left of his composure. No, he said, his voice catching. It means, you and your mommy just got it. Ava's lips parted in a small, surprised smile. Really? Yes, he said firmly. Really? As she grinned and hugged her clipboard tighter, Daniel turned toward the window, his chest tight. You've seen 1,000 resumes, he told himself. Hundreds of polished suits and practiced answers. But none of them walked in with more courage than this little girl. Behind him, Carla stood silently. She didn't ask another question. She didn't need to. They both knew, this morning, the company changed. And not because of a new hire. Because a child just taught them what real strength looks like. The next few hours moved like a quiet storm, slow on the surface, yet powerful beneath. Daniel barely looked at his inbox. The meetings on his calendar were cancelled without apology. His entire attention was focused on one thing, Ava. While legal processed Rebecca Lane's emergency employment paperwork, Daniel found himself doing something he hadn't done in years. He sat on the floor of his office, right beside a 4-year-old, helping her color a picture. The drawing wasn't complex. A stick-figure house. A big sun in the corner. A woman with a ponytail holding hands with a tiny girl in a red dress. Above it, Ava had written in uneven block letters, "My new home." Daniel looked at the drawing for a long time. Is this what you want? He asked gently. She nodded without looking up. Mommy said if she gets this job, we can stop moving. No more motels. No more scary places. She paused. We can have curtains and pancakes on Sundays. He didn't respond at first. What do you say to that? What do you say when a child is wishing not for toys or cartoons but for safety? You're a CEO. You make high-level decisions every day. Yet right now, a child coloring on your office floor has a better grasp of what matters than most boardrooms ever will. Do you know what my job is, Ava? Daniel asked. She looked up and tilted her head. You help people work. Something like that, he smiled. But today. I think you help me do mine better. Just then, Carla entered quietly, holding her phone. Sir, the hospital called. Rebecca Lane is stable. Still unconscious, but her vitals are improving. The nurse read her your letter. Daniel nodded, exhaling. Make sure she gets everything she needs. I want someone with her 24 hours. Ava reached into her tiny backpack and pulled out a small, worn photo, her and her mom sitting on a bus bench, sharing a sandwich. This is my favorite picture, she said. We didn't have a house that day. But Mommy said we had each other, so that's enough. Daniel stared at it, his chest heavy. You spend your life chasing numbers, titles, expansion. Then one little girl walks in and shows you a level of wealth you forgot existed. After a moment of silence, he said, would you like to know a secret, Ava? She leaned in eagerly. What? I run this whole company, he whispered. But today, you're the boss. You made the biggest decision. Ava smiled, giggling for the first time. Mommy says grown-ups need help too. He chuckled through his emotion. She's right. We do. And in that moment, as they sat side by side on the floor of the executive suite, a CEO with a net worth of $45 million realized he had just been mentored by a child. 3 days later, the sky above the city was cloudless, the morning sun casting a golden hue over the corporate skyline. At County General Hospital, a woman named Rebecca Lane slowly opened her eyes. The fluorescent ceiling came into focus, but nothing made sense, not the tubes, not the beeping machines, not the stiffness in her arms. Then she saw it. A fresh bouquet of white lilies on the bedside table, along with a card. She turned her head, struggling to read. To the bravest mother we've ever heard of. Your daughter is safe. She is extraordinary. So are you. Welcome to the Whitmore family. Daniel Whitmore, CEO. Her lip trembled. Tears slipped down the side of her face, and she clutched the card to her chest. She wasn't dreaming. Someone knew. Someone had seen Ava. Someone had listened. Later that afternoon, a black town car pulled up to the towering glass building of Whitmore Holdings. Rebecca, pale but determined, stepped out, her daughter's tiny hand clasped tightly in hers. Her legs still felt weak, but her heart was stronger than ever. Inside the lobby, everything felt too big, too bright. But then, Mommy. Ava let go of her hand and ran forward. She'd been waiting just past the reception desk, wearing the same red dress, her pigtails bouncing as she raced forward and hugged her mother with everything she had. We got the job, she cried out, almost bursting with joy. Rebecca's knees buckled, not from weakness, but from emotion. She pulled Ava into her lap, her tears soaking her daughter's cardigan. You went by yourself? Ava nodded proudly. I was brave. Like you said. Daniel appeared a few steps away, dressed sharply as ever, but there was no boardroom coldness in his face, just warmth. Mississippi Lane, he said gently, welcome to your new beginning. Rebecca stood slowly, still holding Ava's hand. I don't know how to thank you. I had nothing left. No one. Daniel shook his head. You had someone. You had her. And she changed everything. A short silence followed. The kind that said everything words couldn't. We've set up a temporary apartment for you, Daniel added. Fully furnished. Your benefits are already active. And, by the way, Ava's helping run the new daycare space we're launching. Rebecca stared at him. I don't deserve this. Yes, Daniel said, without hesitation. You do. Because you showed up when life had nothing left to give. And because your daughter reminded me what real strength looks like. The three of them stood there, sunlight pouring through the glass around them. In that moment, it didn't matter who was CEO, who was struggling, or who had how much money. What mattered was that something truly rare had happened. Compassion had beaten protocol. A child's courage had cut through corporate walls. And a mother's quiet fight had led them both, home. Behind Daniel, Carla watched silently, wiping a tear from her cheek. Sometimes, miracles don't need angels. Sometimes, all it takes, is a little girl with a clipboard and a reason to believe.